Believe it or not, shy people never ever make it very far in life. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 10 things that I did to break free from the bondage of shyness. Before we get right into the video for today, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, now would be a very good time for you to join this elegant community, especially if leveling up is very important to you. So just click the subscribe button and the bell just right beside it so you can get instantly notified whenever we upload a new video. Now, moving right along to today's video. Would you believe it if I told you that this lady talking to you with all the confidence in the world and with all the sass and was once a very shy, timid, and easily intimidated lady? Think about it. Would you believe it? Yes, I was once that girl who was super duper shy, who was very timid, who was easily intimidated. Like, boy, I was once in the shackles and in the bondage of shyness. But thankfully, I broke free from the shackles of shyness. And everything I did to break free is all I'm about to share with you in today's video. But first, let us just look at how shyness affects a person's overall lifestyle and how shyness was actually acquired. What is this thing called shyness? What is it? I'm going to use myself to cite a lot of examples because, like I said before, I was very shy, easily intimidated, and a very timid lady. And I remember that very early on in my formative years, I never used to like to be involved in social activities or doing public functions. I know that I was always very curled up and just wanted to be in my comfort zone. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. I didn't want to speak. I didn't know how to express my thoughts. I was too scared. In fact, it felt like I was scared to express or to live my life in a very authentic, free, and exciting manner. And it was until I grew up and realized that this thing I was feeling or this thing I was experiencing is what people in the world call shyness. Shyness is actually an emotion. A lot of people are held bound by this shackles of shyness, and it literally hampers with a lot of things that you do on a day-to-day basis, and definitely, of course, hampers your overall well-being as an individual. This emotion of shyness usually would rear its ugly head, like in everything that I do, in everything I did back then. Shyness will pop up, even at the times when I was super confident or knew the things that I was supposed to say, or knew that what I was going to say or what I was going to do were the right things. This shyness just overwhelmed me in such a way that it suppressed me in every way I could think possible. And because of that, I wasn't very expressive with my thoughts. I wasn't expressive with my ideas. I let people bully me. I let a lot of people get away with being mean and disrespectful and bad to me. It wasn't something that I really truly liked. Like, to be honest with you, it felt like I was under a trap. It felt like I was trapped. I was trapped in the shadow of something, and I really needed to break free from it. Now, it was so freaking bad that even when people would pay me a compliment for maybe something that I do or something that I have, a personality that I possess, I didn't even know how to receive the compliments without, I just didn't know how to receive it gracefully. It was like, are these people just trying to whine me or trying to make me feel something that I'm not? That was how bad this shyness was. Apart from that, I was super freaking easily intimidated by a lot of people. When I go out in public, I thought that I was the odd one out. I thought that I was the one who didn't have nothing to offer. And then I would just go to the corner, sit down by the corner, and just be there very timid and shy and not want anyone to notice me because I felt like every other person was more important than me in that public function. I would suffer in silence for so long for things that were literally hurting me from within because I couldn't bring myself to express my feelings boldly to the people who were hurting me. Even my dating life suffered, guys. Then the boyfriends that I had before now, like whenever they introduced me to their family members always felt like there was something awkward about me because I was always very, I wouldn't ease up. I would just be very tight and just Like you could tell that there was something definitely wrong with me somehow. People hurt me in ways that I can't even explain, and a lot of them got away with it because I couldn't man up or I couldn't be bold enough to talk and tell them that this is what they have done to me that has hurt me. Now, in the presence of my family members, right, I could express myself. I was the boldest, I was the loudest because those were the people within my comfort zone. But as soon as I stepped out away from the people that are in my comfort zone, who I'm now very used to or familiar with, as soon as I stepped away from them and went out in public, I became a complete shadow of myself. It was so freaking bad. Like I wouldn't identify it was bad, guys. Like I can literally go on and on and on about how this thing called shyness affected me so badly in my early years, especially in my early 20s. The one that hurt me so bad is how I would literally watch opportunities pass me by time and time and time and time again, just because I couldn't man up to boldly say, oh, I can do this, or I'm good at this, or answer questions when I'm asked so that I can put myself at an advantage. It was just a lot. And now looking back and thinking about what the little girl, that little Winnie experienced back then, I feel so freaking sorry for her because I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Telling you for free. Now, these things haunted me. Like, these are just some examples that I have cited, but there's a lot of things that happen to people who are shy, timid, and easily intimidated. And for me, they kept haunting me from my teen years or from when I developed consciousness throughout my teen years to my early 20s. And then when I became conscious enough to realize that this is actually shyness and I could do something about it, I decided to take the bull by the horn and change the situation by breaking free from the shackles of shyness. But before I could do that, I had to first understand what the root cause of shyness was. I had to ask myself several times, was I born with shyness? Is this a trait that I got from who did I get this thing from? Who? Because I know that as a child, my mom would always tell me that I was very expressive, I was always very bold and stuff like that. But then I grew up into this teenager and I was super duper shy and intimidated. Where on earth did I acquire this personality trait, or will I call it an emotion? I'm not so sure what to call it now, but where did I acquire it from? I had to go back and understand the root cause of it. And I'm going to be sharing with you some root causes of shyness. If you're a shy person watching this video, I tell you that you embody that personality of shyness. Not because you were born with it, but you embody it because you acquired it from something or somewhere due to certain life situations that I'm about to explain and share with you all right now. There's so many reasons why people embody this personality of shyness, but some of the ones that I've put down here is number one. And again, I said this thing actually stems from our formative years when we were growing up as children, what happened in our lives at that time when we were growing up. So the very first point that I've put down here for the reason why you may be shy as a person is you probably had overly protective parents. Your parents were overly protective of you. They would not allow you go out as a child when you were a child. Your father, for example, me, I grew up with a very strict dad. My dad won't let us go out to play even in the compound where we lived with other people. He won't let us go out to play. He won't let us mingle with our mates. We wouldn't go for the birthdays of the kids around us. He wouldn't let us mingle with other kids around us because he was very overprotective. I think at the time he thought he was doing us a favor by keeping us trapped inside, but he was actually doing us more harm than good. Because guess what? As children, we didn't develop what the things that we required to actually be social with other children. I tell you, when a child is playing with other children, they're developing traits that allow them to be social or sociable with other people. But when you had overly protective parents who didn't allow you mingle with other children, as a child yourself, they deprived you of the ability to develop your social skills. Social skills will be how you make friends. You hear some people say, oh, we've been friends from childhood, and you'll be like, you guys have been going strong. Yeah, because they bonded and they became very tight-knit as children. Children have very innocent minds, and they are able to acquire beautiful, lovely skills at their very young age. So when you deprive them of that, when they grow up into adults, they find it difficult to bond with other people, make friends without feeling awkward or tensed about it. So if you had an overly protective parent who wouldn't let you go out and mingle with other people, that might actually be the reason why you took up the personality of a shy person, because you didn't develop your social skills at a very young age. And if you're a parent watching this video right now, please don't be so overprotective. I know, yes, you really care about them. I don't want to expose them to the dangers of the outside world, but you're also depriving them of the ability to develop their social skills. And that will hamper with their growth and their progress as adults when they eventually mature into adulthood. So allow them. You can just put rules and regulations just so that they're protected, but do not stop them from mingling with the outside world, okay? Before we go on with the video, remember that we have the Art of Speaking Eloquently and Elegantly course that's currently up on discount. You don't want to miss it. We're taking the discount away very soon. So use the link in the description box down below to get more information about it, and of course access the course as well. Okay, now this course is important if you are trying to level up on your communication skills, be an eloquent speaker, know how to effectively communicate your thoughts and your ideas and your feelings without feeling shy and awkward and timid and easily intimidated. That course is definitely for you. Okay, so go get your hands on it. Let's get right back into the video. The second point that may be the reason why you actually have a shy personality is you didn't have a rich social experience in your formative years. So this one is kind of like linked to the second one. So I put down here things like somehow you weren't allowed to visit your friends in their homes, you weren't allowed to have play dates. As a child, you weren't allowed to go to your friends' parties or even throw your own parties that your friends could come to and attend. You didn't travel a lot as a child. So you didn't have any form of rich, grand social experience that involved other people in your life that weren't necessarily or aren't necessarily your immediate family members. That might be the reason why you have taken up these traits of being a shy person. The third one that I put down here on my list is having poor parental grooming. Your parents were never available for you. They were never available to you. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they just were never there. Sometimes it may be due to the fact that your parents didn't really know so much. They were probably ignorant. They didn't have a lot of experiences themselves, so they didn't even know how to train you as a child. They never allowed you to air your views without passing judgment, as long as it was not something that also aligned with their own values or beliefs. They would always suppress your own thoughts. They suppress your own, they suppress the things that you were expressing as a child. And that actually is a very terrible thing for a child to experience. For example, for me, my mom told me that as a child, I was I could talk for Africa. I could chop up anybody's head by talking. But one thing, looking back at my childhood years, what I would always remember is every time I start talking and expressing myself, my mom would always suppress my talk. Not only my mom, my brothers and my sisters, they would always suppress what I was saying. They would always tell me to shut up my mouth. They would always tell me, keep quiet, you talk too much. They would always scream and shout at me for trying to open up my mouth to talk. Look at me today. I literally talk for a living. What my mom or my dad or my siblings could have done was recognize that this talking there's something about this lady and there's a reason why she's probably talking as much as she's talking. Their responsibility was to now help me groom that talkativeness so that I could develop it into a skill. But no, every time I open my mouth to express myself, my mom would tell me, keep quiet, don't talk, don't say anything. And I'm like, okay. So I grew up into an adult thinking it wasn't okay for me to be expressive. It wasn't okay for me to air my views. It wasn't okay for me to say the things that were hurting me. And that was how I took on that personality of being a timid, overly intimidated, and a very shy person. Of course, I don't blame my mom. If you've watched the story on how I healed my childhood traumas, you would understand what actually went on and how she was saddled with the responsibility of taking care of 7 children. So I can imagine how that was a lot on her, and she really wanted breathing space to think. But then I would always use my words to try to chop up everybody's head. But I still feel like it was her responsibility, or I still believe that it was her responsibility to have noticed that talkativeness in me and then groom me and guide me in the right direction so that I could use it, I could put that skill to use. But thankfully, I'm still putting the skill to use because I talk for a living. The next point that I've put down here that might be the reason why you've taken on this trait as a shy person is you were probably chastised and rebuked publicly for doing things you felt were right as a child. Now, your parents didn't care who was around you, when or where it was happening, as long as whatever you did or said was not aligned with their values, they would whip you either with their words or give you beatings with cane. And sometimes, this thing will literally traumatize you for days, and you start asking, wait, are these people my parents? I know it happened to me a few times. My mom literally embarrassed me a couple of times in public. And because of that, I really grew up thinking that I always had to maintain this perfect behavior. And I had to be this certain way just because I was very embarrassed by and chastised in public, in the view of other people, by my parents and people who I looked up to pretty much as guardians as well. Now, what parents and guardians need to understand is that your kids don't know it all. Children don't know it all. That's why they are children. So having the expectation that they are always going to be prim and proper at all times is a recipe for disaster. That's why you are there as the guardian, to pick them up when they fall. Explain things to them in a very easy, understandable, and in a very kind manner, so that when they hear your own point of view and see the way you're explaining it to them, they would understand where you are coming from. But if you take up a whip at every little, anything that your child does that doesn't sit well with you, you're already raising your hand to beat. You want to fight. Oh my goodness. What you're doing is you are actually hampering with the growth of that child, because I tell you, that child would end up either being very timid and intimidated, very stubborn. Parents have a lot of work to do. Parents and guardians, there's a reason you are called a guardian, for a reason. You are called to guide. Even you as an adult, you make mistakes. You make mistakes as an adult, don't you? Everyone makes mistakes as adults. So imagine you as an adult who has come up to a particular level and of knowledge, but you still make mistakes. And then you won't accord that same grace to your toddler, to your 5-year-old, to your 8-year-old. Because they made a single mistake, then you want to bring down the whole world because they made a mistake. Guardians and parents need to do better, because this affects children in more ways than you can actually imagine. And the last one on my list for the reasons why you may have taken on the traits of shyness is you'll find yourself amongst people of like minds. Maybe your parents too were shy, timid, and easily intimidated. So you learned from observation. Or maybe you had people around you who were easily timid and shy, and then you picked up that behavior, because as children, we pick up things really, really quickly. So maybe you were surrounded by people who were easily shy, timid, and intimidated. So my elegant family, I think it's best that we end this video at this point so that it's not longer than it should be, and then it would start discouraging people from wanting to watch, because this topic is a very valuable one. So I have shared with you some things that I think are the reason why a lot of people embody shyness. In another video, which we'll upload next week, I would share with you how I broke free from the shyness. So I don't want this video to be any longer than it should be. So look out for that video next week, okay? Until then, continue to stay very, very elegant. Take care.